Hey guys, Crypto Sunday, and we've had a bit of a correction week, a little bit red, but I did make a reasonably big sale. So, yeah, for once, I have sort of made a sale at a reasonable time. I'm not very good at sort of short-term timing. I always say my short-term luck is quite poor, and long-term luck is pretty good. I tend to sort of sell and buy at the wrong times, but you know, compared to when I actually bought originally, it's normally works out pretty well. This week I'm down about 44,000, about 9% 9.5%. But yes, I sold one Bitcoin, a whole Bitcoin at sort of 107,000 ish. So you sort of see in the last week, it was there for very little time. We're sort of talking, a day, and then we're back down to 96,000. Did get to sort of 92, various, you know, thousand or so either side of that on different exchanges, and yeah, it's sort of usual correction. If that was the sort of correction bottom, then it's still tamer than sort of most corrections in previous bull markets. We haven't had anything like a sort of 35%, close to 40% that we were getting in 2017. So, yeah, I think people certainly need to sort of calm down a little bit and stop sort of calling the end every time it drops 10%. But there you go. People will do that. They're newer people, I suppose, that haven't really sort of been in too many cycles. So looking at ETF flows, we knew this was going to be good. The next week's sort of probably won't be quite as good, which we'll come back to. But yes, 3.2 billion, 10th consecutive week of inflows, pretty good. Most of this into Bitcoin, but well, I say that 2 billion into Bitcoin, but 1.09 billion into Ethereum. It's sort of really picking up. Outflow out of the multi-asset fund again. People sort of not liking these index ones. I always thought that these would be the most popular sort of over time as they start getting more broad. We don't really have a US one that sort of I would expect is coming, and there's a little bit of news on that. But yeah, sort of a top 10 crypto by market cap you would think would be very, very popular, sort of like your S&P 500s and that sort of thing. People like not having to pick. But yeah, so Solana, sort of 1.7 million, fairly small inflow, but it's positive. 146 million nearly into XRP, sort of very odd. It's, you know, nearly 15, 17% of assets under management in 1 week. 280 million for the month. So yeah, very odd. People clearly think XRP is going to do something long term. A little bit into Binance Coin, Litecoin, and Cardano, seeing what are sort of reasonably big inflows for those size market caps. 14 million into short Bitcoin, so maybe that has done pretty well over the last week. 0.7 into Chainlink and 4.5 million into others. This sort of other section is getting quite big some weeks, so I'd imagine that's the sort of smaller ETFs in Europe. By country, sort of pretty much everyone has gone positive again except Sweden with a small outflow. 24 million into Brazil, sort of erasing all of these small outflows that we've seen recently. And yeah, Australia, Canada, Hong Kong, Germany, and Switzerland all with positive numbers. So looking pretty good. Looking at this week's inflows, we've sort of seen a bit of a mixed bag. Beginning of the week, sort of decent numbers, 600 million. Did get a 493 million inflow, but that was all from BlackRock. Seeing outflows the rest of the market, and then sort of the Wednesday, similar, zero for Fidelity, inflow into BlackRock and outflows from the rest, but 275 million. And then, yeah, BlackRock sort of come to a bit of a pause, a zero on Thursday, and a negative. Takes quite a lot for them to be negative, but Friday was a bit of an outflow day for a lot of things, or Thursday at least. and Bitcoin sort of seems to have taken a little bit of the brunt of that. But yeah, between Thursday and Friday, you've had sort of 950 million of outflow. First sort of outflow from the Grayscale Mini one, the sort of new cheapest ETF on the market, 188 million. So that was what 20% nearly of assets under management. So as you say, you don't sort of get this from the bigger ETFs. Maybe the Grayscale people are shorter term people or sort of arbitrage people, hedge funds, or whatever. Whereas BlackRock, as you can see, it takes a hell of a lot for them to sell. Or even when you've had down days, they just get a net zero. Maybe that means people are selling and there's enough new people to buy. But could just mean that they're holding on. So Ethereum fared slightly worse, I would say. Reasonably big outflow from BlackRock on the Friday. People sort of not quite as willing to hold Ethereum as they are Bitcoin. Admittedly, these still don't have staking. There's sort of talks of it being included once Trump gets in. But yeah, without staking, I sort of think these have limited appeal, and people would be sort of quick to sell them. But yeah, you did get, net for the week. BlackRock a positive, couple of good days and a zero, and sort of small numbers really from the rest. Still continued outflow from Grayscale as expected, but even outflow from the Grayscale Mini overall. And yeah, sort of net, it's a fairly low week, 20, 25, 30 million or so of inflow. So yeah, nothing compared to what we had been seeing. And of course, outside the ETF buying, we have continued buying from the convertible debt people. So it's not just MicroStrategy anymore, but MicroStrategy did announce on Monday that they'd purchased 15,350 Bitcoin. Takes them to 439,000, sort of around about 2% of the total Bitcoin. Some people seeing that as dangerous. Bought for 100,000, so yeah, he does seem to be buying quite a lot just before corrections, and their average is 61,725, so it is inching up further and further. People are sort of talking about where Bitcoin will go in the next bear market, whether it would get to this price and sort of force them to maybe have to sell some, or whether they would have to sell sort of even before it gets to that price. I don't see entirely why they would. It sort of should line up with redemption on their convertible bonds, should it not get to the price that they're offering basically. But yeah, I think it would take quite a lot for them to sell. But hopefully, I'm not looking to sort of be holding during the bear market. Hopefully selling the majority of mine next year, and would sort of think that is best for most people really. Don't want to be sort of getting too greedy and holding all the way through the next bear market. As I say, it's not just MicroStrategy. We had Riot Platforms, who sort of kind of knew this was coming. They sold 594 million of convertible bonds and acquired 667 Bitcoin extra. So yeah, they now hold 17,429. So they bought about 6,000 or so in total from the looks of it, 6,500, and yeah, brings them to 17,429. I'm still not all that happy about this, convertible bond offering. I would kind of rather they just mined and maybe even sold some of what they were mining to sort of make a legitimate business, because I don't think people are really sort of valuing them as a legitimate business if they essentially have no revenue and they're sort of funding operations through selling shares and just holding their Bitcoin. It sort of just to me becomes a a Bitcoin ETF, similar to what I would think MicroStrategy should be, but obviously people are treating it as levered Bitcoin. And you had Marathon Holdings. They raised 1.925 billion from convertible bonds, and they acquired 15,574 Bitcoin this week. So exactly the same, pretty much exactly the same as MicroStrategy. So you've got two buyers at the moment, sort of buying, 15,000 at a time. Don't know whether MicroStrategy are done. They believe they have a cooling off period before sort of earnings and SEC restrict them. So we'll have to see. But yeah, it does look like the buying should sort of come to an end shortly. That's probably why they've been going quite so hard the last sort of few weeks. They're, I think, like over halfway towards their sort of 2-year target, and it's sort of only been a couple of months. I had to cover this. I mean, this is just hilarious. Craig Wright, the person persistently claiming to be the mysterious inventor of Bitcoin, has been found to have committed contempt of court. He was ordered by the High Court to stop claiming he was Satoshi, and he has continued to launch legal cases asserting that he has IP rights to Bitcoin, including a claim that he was owed $1.2 trillion in Bitcoin, basically, saying that his Bitcoin SV coin should be worth the current market cap of Bitcoin, which obviously has gone up since then. But at the time, yeah, he was saying that the entire value of Bitcoin should be owed to him. And a judge has said that amounts to a flagrant breach of the original court order and has sentenced him to a suspended sentence of 12 months in prison. So he's not currently in the UK. He appeared by video and said he was in Asia somewhere. But yeah, if he sort of does anything else, or I guess steps foot in the UK, there's going to be eyes all over him, and he could potentially go to prison. So it's not just a court order. We'll have to see whether he, obeys this and stands by this, or if he keeps, trying to push his legal war. But yeah, supposedly if he does so, he could now go to prison. So we sort of thought this was the last of him, and it didn't seem to be. But will it be now? More strategic Bitcoin reserve talk as well. The US sort of hasn't even put theirs into place yet. We don't even know whether they will be able to, or sort of certainly what form it'll take. But you have a French MEP delivered quite a high-profile address to the European Union, urging them to start one, basically, sort of citing various things, El Salvador's early adoption of Bitcoin and how it's sort of done well for them, saying at the time he was reviled by the political class and the IMF. Today he is up 100%. So bought sort of at a relatively poor time. It was sort of a good way through the 2021 bull market. For him to be up 100% now is sort of obviously could have bought at a much better time, but that was when they bought, and obviously while they were in the red during the sort of 2022 bear market, everyone was criticising and saying it was the wrong thing. But yeah, they have sort of used that money quite well. I don't think they've sold all that much, but maybe that sort of, a bit like gold holdings, it allows you to then spend other money and spend your tax income a bit differently if you have, assets sat there. And yeah, they're also citing Jerome Powell, stating that he's now sort of referring to it as digital gold. He said it was not a competitor to the dollar, it was sort of a competitor to gold, really, kind of implying digital gold. And yeah, she's sort of saying that Europe are pushing too much towards the digital euro, central bank digital currencies, and that they should get away from that. And certainly in France, at least, sort of pushing, considering they have some surplus nuclear power, doesn't really get used, that they could get into mining. So yeah, yet another sort of nail in the coffin for me wanting to get rid of Bitcoin miners sort of sooner rather than later. You got sort of France talking about just using surplus nuclear energy, energy that they're essentially paying zero for. It would sort of be beneficial for them to use it on something. And yeah, that's completely different to US Bitcoin miners paying sort of 4 cents per kilowatt hour plus the cost of the machines. I just think long term it's not going to be a profitable business if you have more of this. So I mentioned multi-asset ETFs, and the SEC have approved their first spot Bitcoin and Ethereum combination ETF. So I think there was, we're all sort of saying the SEC are trying to go out swinging, and they're still sending Wells notices and trying to initiate lawsuits that would probably get scrapped once they change over. But yeah, there probably wasn't a lot of scope to reject these if you've approved Bitcoin and Ethereum. One having both of them shouldn't really get rejected, I suppose. There's no leverage in here from what I understand. It's a spot Bitcoin and Ethereum based ETF, weighted 80% Bitcoin and 20% Ether, based on their market cap. Kind of wonder if this is a little bit of a sort of sneaky way of getting in first on future token sort of being included in the ETFs. So your sort of Solana ETFs are getting filed now and proposed, and I gather they've sort of been shot down. But yeah, again, the changeover of the SEC, I think people will be refiling their ETFs, and they sort of will take a little bit of time to go through, I suppose. Whereas if they just declare Solana not a security, you would think they could be added to the NASDAQ index that they're sort of tracking with this, and Hashdex and Franklin Templeton could just say, right, we're pretty much immediately adding this to our ETF, and they would sort of be first out of the gate. I guess that could mean, if these ETFs get a reasonable amount of assets under management, that they would end up selling Bitcoin and Ethereum, because if you have to, slot Solana in based on market cap to what is 80 and 20, then you would have to sell a little bit of both of them to fit Solana in there, whether it be sort of, I guess, 8-9%, and then sort of the other two reduced a little. It's not going to be a huge amount of selling, I suppose, but yeah, interesting, I thought. And finally, as if we didn't need to get told about this, but meme coins, are a bit of a scam. And yeah, we had the Hook Tour girl sort of getting sued, basically. It sounds like she's not really implicated personally, but the team around the launch of this meme coin are calling it a security. They were it was pre-sold, and the team, it looks like, made quite a bit of money, and it sort of dumped immediately. But the pre-sale of that, they are calling a securities offering. There's no way you would pre-sell the token for someone else without sort of anticipation of profits, and it wasn't registered. So these sort of meme coins are generally supposed to be just dumped on the market and full token unlock immediately, where that sort of isn't a security. But if you sell, what is it, $2.8 million worth of the coins to people beforehand, with an intention of them making profit, then that is a securities offering, sort of similar to what XRP Ripple were basically convicted of, not really accused of. They got found guilty of that. But yeah, so she's sort of defending a class action lawsuit, it looks like now, and saying that she had nothing to do with it. It was the team that sort of ruined everything. But yeah, why are people sort of putting 10,000, 20,000 from what I've seen? Some people, whether that's, they are just trolling and lying, I don't know, but I would think some people have. Certainly if they've sold 2.8 million of tokens beforehand, someone's buying them. Whether it's, I guess it's probably not retail, but yeah, some institutions got burnt. I would say leave them alone and buy proper coins. So, performance for the week, aside from my reasonably large sale, that I should mention that has sort of partly gone to stocks and partly gone into premium bonds. I did sort of max out the 50,000 of premium bonds, which is more tax than I owe, but I thought I might as well get the ball rolling and sort of save some in there for future sales. So yeah, Bitcoin is down 5%, reasonably big move. Solana with the bigger move at 15, just over 15% down. It's sort of taken quite a hit. Ethereum down 12.7%. Chainlink not having a good week, 22.8%. Gala 29%. Some of these sort of down pretty big. Quant down 19.5%. Power Legend down 18%. Audius down 22.5%. VeChain down 19%. ICP 21%. Basic Attention Token 23.5%. And Matic 22.5%. So yeah, some double figures and some 20% plus. Reasonably big correction, but yeah, it's, as I say, similar to, well, it's far smaller than previous sort of corrections in bull markets. I think these have been softened really by ETF inflows and sort of, your Sailor and Riot and Mara sort of buys and that sort of thing, propping the market up. If Bitcoin doesn't drop quite so much, then the altcoins don't. So you'd sort of, in a 30-40% correction, you'd expect these altcoins to be dropping 50, 60, 70% in a week. But yeah, that's been stemmed, I would say. So yeah, leave your thoughts in the comments below if you guys are enjoying this roller coaster, and like and subscribe. See you soon.